Welcome to the debate. Imagine an enterprise accidentally burning a $500 million AI bill in a single month,
Yeah, that is honestly terrifying to even think about.
right? Or Google processing an unfathomable 3.2 quadrillion units of AI thought in just 30 days.
It's a completely unprecedented scale.
It really is. Today, we're arguing the economics of this massive, low-cost AI inference and token consumption. And if you enjoy deep dives into these kinds of topics, please take a quick second to subscribe to the show.
Yes, definitely hit subscribe.
So before we jump into the main topic, I want to give a really quick 10 to 15-second update on the Martin Stevens versus OpenAI matter.
Right, since there's been so much noise around that.
Exactly. So just to clarify, there is no lawsuit. Both parties are currently in a voluntary, quiet period.
And there's no confirmed settlement yet either.
Correct. No settlement has been confirmed, and his dead man's switch has not been activated.
Well, that's a relief at least.
Yeah, absolutely. But honestly, Steven's situation is really just one ripple in this massive, massive ocean of AI compute. Which brings us to today's core question. I'm taking the position that this explosion in token usage is, a highly positive evolution. It's basically a textbook example of the Jevons paradox unlocking unprecedented agentic workflows.
And I'm taking the position that this is a massive red flag. Treating raw token consumption as an achievement has become this toxic, gamified vanity metric that's masking severe corporate governance failures, highly inefficient architectures, and, frankly, unsustainable physical costs.
Okay, let's start with why this scale is even possible right now, because we are currently living through what some call LLMflation, the rapid exponential decline in inference costs.
The floor has completely fallen out on pricing.
It has. I mean, look at DeepSeek's mixture of experts architecture. By only activating a tiny fraction of its total parameters for any given request, they've managed to drive the cost of input tokens down to a mere 14 cents per million.
Right, so the models themselves are getting radically cheaper to run per unit. I agree with that.
Exactly. And this is just the Jevons paradox at play. When you make a resource drastically cheaper, you don't end up using less of it to do the same tasks. You exponentially expand what you use it for.
But expanded into what, exactly?
Well, into everything. That's why ByteDance's Dalbao model is consuming, 120 trillion tokens daily just for AI video generation? And it's why Google is hitting that 3.2 quadrillion mark every single month. We're watching AI transition from novelty chatbots into the foundational, invisible infrastructure of the global economy.
I hear you, but calling a $500 million accidental bill foundational infrastructure feels like a pretty massive stretch.
I mean, accidents happen during scaling.
But what we're actually seeing here is a classic violation of Goodhart's law. When a measure becomes a target, it ceases to be a good measure. We're treating the sheer volume of tokens burned as a proxy for innovation.
You don't think it correlates with utility?
Not necessarily. Just look at Uber. They literally exhausted their entire 2026 AI budget by April.
Wait, really? They burned through a full 2-year budget in 4 months?
Yes, in 4 months. And then you have companies like Meta and Amazon having to quietly kill their internal token leaderboards because one employee managed to burn 281 billion tokens in a single month.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that is enough compute to reproduce the entirety of Wikipedia 33 times over. Gamifying token burn is like rewarding your taxi drivers for how much gas they use, rather than how many passengers they actually drop off.
Okay, that's a funny analogy.
It's true, though. The AI is driving in circles just to rack up the meter. We are literally incentivizing waste, not value.
All right, but you can't blame the token volume itself for bad corporate governance. Let's look at how those tokens actually get used when they are applied correctly.
Go on.
Take a food service distributor like Choco. They processed over 200 billion tokens with OpenAI, but they didn't use them for flashy chatbots or, internal leaderboards.
So what were they doing with all that compute?
They used them for totally invisible automated supply chain workflows. They were taking highly unstructured, scattered orders, structuring them instantly, and literally preventing food waste on a massive scale.
Okay, that is a solid utility.
Right. When a system does that autonomously in the background, high token volume absolutely means high real-world utility.
Chaco is a great example of a targeted use case, I'll give you that. But treating raw token burn as an AI achievement across the board is, well, I'll use another analogy. It's like judging a factory's success by how much electricity it wastes instead of how many goods it produces.
But tokens aren't just waste, they represent actual computational thought.
Sometimes, but a vast majority of this silent token consumption actually comes from architectural inefficiency. It's not autonomous brilliance, it's lazy multi-turn prompting loops.
How do you mean? Like an agent getting stuck on a problem?
Precisely. An agentic system tries to write code, runs a test, fails a test, and recursively prompts itself to fix the fix. It gets confused and just spins in circles.
Ah, generating millions of tokens without producing a single usable output.
Exactly. The financial friction of those endless loops is exactly why Microsoft recently had to pull back Claude Code licenses from its own engineers. And funny enough, Martin Stevens actually chimed in on this specific debate recently.
Oh, really? Did he claim the top spender spot?
No, he said he certainly isn't the top token spender globally, but he noted that he does burn an astronomical amount of tokens whenever ChatGPT goes rogue and spirals into one of those endless unproductive loops. It is a software efficiency problem masquerading as scale.
That's fascinating. But let's look at what happens when those software loops hit hard physical limits. Because tokens aren't just, abstract ideas floating in the cloud. They require literal electricity.
They do. It's a massive physical footprint.
This is where the sheer scale becomes an unavoidable reality. Every single token processed is governed by Landauer's principle.
Right, the absolute thermodynamic cost of computing.
Exactly. Landauer's principle tells us that simply clearing memory caches to process the next token generates unavoidable heat. When you scale that to 3.2 quadrillion tokens, that heat becomes a massive draw on the U.S. energy grid.
Which is incredibly taxing on our infrastructure.
It is. Projections for the 2028 U.S. AI energy allocation sit at roughly 326 terawatt hours, and that finite energy translates into a strict question budget for humanity. It comes out to roughly 225,000 tokens per person per day.
A daily question budget?
Yes, and I argue that we absolutely must consume at this scale to fully compress human intent into machine execution. The physics of solving complex combinatorial problems just requires massive throughput.
But you're forgetting Arrow's information paradox here.
Remind me how that applies?
Well, you can't know the value of the AI's output until it actually generates it, but once it generates it, you've already paid that massive thermodynamic cost.
Ah, right. So you can't price the answer before you ask the question.
Exactly. Because of that paradox, treating raw token volume as a metric for knowledge or value is inherently flawed. You could burn your daily 225,000 tokens generating absolute nonsense in one of those endless loops. Or you could burn 500 tokens to find a cure for a disease.
That's a fair point about the variance in value.
This is exactly why I am so critical of OpenAI handing out those sleek, black 100 billion token awards to consulting firms like McKinsey and PwC.
Wait, they really give out physical awards for token volume?
Yes, and it's absurd. Celebrating raw throughput directly contradicts these exact same corporations' highly publicized net zero sustainability goals.
It is definitely a weird optic.
It's a PR nightmare. You can't claim you are a green company while proudly displaying a trophy for how much server farm electricity you managed to incinerate. We have to demand a shift away from volume metrics and toward outcome-based metrics.
And on that front, I think we actually agree. The industry is already moving that way. The era of blind token burning is definitely ending.
Thankfully.
Yeah, we're seeing platforms like GitHub shift their Copilot plans to outcome-based pricing, aligning costs with usage that drives actual code completion, rather than just billing for raw inference calls.
Which is exactly what needs to happen across the board. Look, whether this massive explosion in token consumption goes down in history as a temporary corporate governance failure or the messy, permanent birth of the agentic AI era, well, that's something the listeners will have to weigh for themselves.
Absolutely.
But it's very clear that finance teams and AI engineers can no longer operate in separate silos. The checks and balances have to be there.
I agree. The measurement of value really has to catch up to the sheer speed of these models. But as always, we will leave the ultimate conclusion up to you, our listeners.
Yes, there is so much more to explore here.
There really is. If you enjoyed this intellectual exchange, please be sure to like, subscribe, and share the show to help others explore these deep, nuanced debates.
And as we close today, think back to that hypothetical factory. Are we celebrating the smoke billowing from the chimneys, or are we measuring the quality of what is coming off the assembly line?
Perfectly said. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.